What is up, Scyushi Squad? We are back in some more Trove, and today I thought we would take a break from what we're usually doing and kind of have like a news video, because while I do have Trove news videos from time to time, generally speaking, there's not really a bulk of news to talk about, and usually we end up talking about all this stuff during live streams, which of course I'm sure we have already by this point. But we're actually chilling over here by the Game Breaker Canon because D ended up randomly just coming over and trying it out, and it seems, I don't know when this happened, but the Game Breaker Canon kind of works again. It's still very unstable, but for those of you that don't know, years and years and years ago, we ended up discovering that if you end up constructing something that looks similar to this is just kind of a model so you can check it out, you'll basically trigger all four platforms at the bottom to boost you. You bump your head and then you boost off of another one, and it's just a weird thing that happens in Trove. So this was actually the newer model where you can see it's very squeezed together, and it had ice under it and everything like that, but it doesn't work very well, like consistently anyways. Whereas the old Game Breaker Canon does work a lot better, and this one's basically the exact same thing, but a wider interior. Now, there's a couple extra boosts at the end here, because D's kind of messing with it, seeing if he can get it to work faster and faster. But anyways, point is that what you normally do is you just go into the corner here, push up against the wall, and then just let her rip. And it works. Sometimes you can go even faster than this. It's very inconsistent. Sometimes you'll get launched and then you'll rubber band right back. But the point is that myself and others used to have Game Breaker Cannons on our cornerstones because they're designed in such a compact way that you can end up in fact squeezing them onto your cornerstone. So you can have one shooting off in each of the four directions. So you just build a cornerstone that is a nice tower so that you can then end up having Game Breaker Cannons so you can shoot off in every direction. So I might end up actually adding that to my cornerstone again. I used to have them on my cornerstone, but then the game ended up doing, there's a very common glitch that I'm sure some people even watching this video have ran into, where the I don't know, where your cornerstone, like the top half of it just gets cut off randomly and there's no way to fix it. You can send a ticket to get that fixed, but then you basically have to just log out of the game if you don't want to end up losing any progress, because basically they have to revert your file back to when the cornerstone worked. And even then, that's iffy whether or not they end up actually saying, yeah, we can do that, or they just don't bother. But either way, it's kind of cool that the Game Breaker Canon works again. You can see there goes D. Bye-bye. And I don't know, I'm just really excited about that. But there's also some other very, very exciting news that I'm sure this is probably going to end up being the big focal point of what we probably talked about on the stream the other day, which is the developer live stream just ended up hitting. And for the most part, it was just them playing Bomber Royale. It wasn't really too impressive, but they did drop some key information, including which class is the next class getting a rework. And finally, they confirmed that it is your boy, the Shadow Hunter. Now, they didn't talk in too much detail about how they're going to change the class. However, they did end up mentioning some very small key details, as well as when we may or may not be able to test the character. And with that bit of information, I may be able to make an educated guess as to when we'll be able to play with the Shadow Hunter rework, and it's a lot sooner than you might think. So the biggest things that they did talk about was, I was very surprised that the developers acknowledged the fact that a few of the Shadow Hunter's abilities are outright useless, so they're going to be removing those and in place of another ability. So we are going to end up seeing, you know, actual new skills on the Shadow Hunter rather than just tweaking its damage and so on and so forth. So that's going to be really cool. Generally speaking, out of my feedback, I'd say the right click just shouldn't exist anymore. And then the ultimate ability either needs to have its code tweaked so that it works more consistently, as well as less of a cooldown on it so you can consistently use it once per dungeon, or maybe even have it so that when you kill enemies that are triggered by your shadow mark, by your trap or something like that, like maybe you drop down a snare, the enemies get tagged by it, and then maybe every enemy that's killed within that time frame reduces your cooldown or something. I don't know, these are just my own thoughts, okay? But they did acknowledge that they want to kind of augment the current play style of the Shadow Hunter more, which to me says that they're going to centralize it more so around his machine gun blast, which is the funnest part of the Shadow Hunter anyways. They did talk about how they want to bring up the utility of the character, which may or may not mean some sort of healing, maybe some more stunning effect. I would really hope that it has to do with movement speed. But generally speaking, out of all of the reworks that we've had more recently, I'm trusting them with what they're going to change the Shadow Hunter to. I'm confident that it's going to end up being a-okay and really cool. Now, the other thing too that I speculate about is whether or not the current abilities for the Shadow Hunter's hidden effects on the crystal rings are pretty useless. And it made me think maybe those abilities are useless to the current Shadow Hunter, but maybe they designed them around the new Shadow Hunter that we've got coming, right? Maybe. I don't know. It's just food for thought. But we did get a confirmation that we could, as soon, we could be playing the Shadow Hunter rework on the test server as soon as next week. Ooh, that's exciting, dude, because that comes with a couple, exciting thoughts. Not only the fact that we'll be able to finally get to play this guy and actually see the rework and get some feedback and stuff like that, but generally speaking, what the developers have been using the PTS or public test server for is kind of a proof of concept. So they kind of just let us try it out. We give our basic feedback, but generally speaking, if they don't have any major complaints, they just launch it right away. With all of the other reworks previously that we've had from Game Ago, usually we see the character go to the live server within 1 to 2 weeks. Sometimes 3, it depends how much they have to alter the character. And then usually the rework will also end up being ported over to consoles within a month. So I think it's pretty safe to say that there is a very, very high chance that we will be able to play with the Shadow Hunter rework on the live servers on PC anyways, as soon as February, and possibly near the end of February, maybe into March, for console players to end up experiencing it. So I'm really excited. You guys know I'll cover everything about the rework, so I think that's going to end up being really, really cool to discover the new abilities. And generally speaking, again, I'm very curious to see where they're going to put the character, because I want it for speed farming, obviously, but it'd be nice if we had some functionality for delves and maybe even like boss fighting, like with Leviathans and stuff. Who knows? We'll see. Now, last but not least, there is also going to end up being the pearled rings. So this is something that has been kind of plaguing the game. And we're not going to necessarily go into details of how you actually do this, because technically it is a glitch, it is an exploit, it is against terms of service. It's something that basically the developers know about it, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to end up dealing with it. But the short end of it is basically that you can end up kind of tricking the game into thinking that you are upgrading a normal piece of crystal gear, but in fact you're upgrading a crystal ring, and so you can end up putting pearls on it, which will not only give you extra stats on those crystal rings, it also increase the stats on those crystal rings, and also ends up increasing the power rank. Now, in terms of my own personal feedback on it, I don't think, like, even though I say it's against terms of service and stuff, basically it just means that I can't cover it in a video. I can't talk about it. I can't share how you actually do the method. But it's very, very easy, way easier than you would think. And the biggest thing that I want to talk about today is my own feedback as to how I think they should deal with it. Personally, I think they should just add it to the game. Because what will otherwise happen if they end up removing the function? More than likely, what's going to happen is you won't get banned for doing it or anything. Obviously, too many people have been doing it, so there's nothing that can be done about that. So what would more than likely happen if they decided against keeping pearling in the game is they would end up removing the feature, but all of our pearled crystal rings would still be a part of the game. They would still be in the game and still be functional. This is something that has happened many times before. Regen is a stat that used to be able to be obtained on gems, and now it's actually been removed. But if you had any gems prior to that update, they still have regen on them. You can cycle off the regen on them, but then you won't be able to cycle it back onto the gems, right? There's a couple other instances of stuff like this that ended up happening in the game. But the point is that it means, in this regard, with the Pearled Rings, new players, if they remove this feature, or exploit, I should say, glitch, whatever, if they remove it, it basically means that new players would be at a distinct disadvantage and not be able to catch up to the people that did end up experiencing it, right? So that's one of the big reasons why I personally think that they should just accept it for what it is and just add it to the game so that it's actually like a functional quality, because clearly it seems that Crystal Rings have leftover code from Crystal Gear, but obviously it is not something that is intentional, because obviously the way that you end up doing it is kind of glitchy in general, but also you can end up getting multiple stats, like extra stats on the Crystal Gems, including an unknown stat as well. So yeah, anyways, I just wanted to have this as a quick little update video, let you guys know what's going on with Trove and all of that stuff, and hopefully you guys end up having a wonderful day. Smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want to support the channel. Bye bye.